All right, everybody, let's get started. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm excited to do this webinar because we don't normally do these on just how to use Foureyes to solve low inventory challenges or to solve these specific problems. So we have some really cool stuff I'm excited to share with you. And David Steinberg finally figured out a pandemic era dream of mine, which is how to put myself into the PowerPoint. This is really exciting for me to be in the PowerPoint talking to you guys today, but give this a whirl. It's a little experimental. We'll see how we do. So first things first, I think everybody's trying to make sense of this market. Obviously, the more we understand about what's really going on, the smarter our decision making can be. Really see that there's like three current buyer personas. There's the I know what I want it now. I'm willing to pay for it. I'm just like, I need a new car to tow something, or I'm not coming off lease. I have some reason why I know exactly what I want. We're all seeing those people in our showrooms. Seeing the people who they know what they want, but they'll kind of take anything. And we're seeing a lot of switch vehicles going on. And I'm going to share with you some tricks on how to use Foureyes to watch people switch vehicles and actually help them when that happens. And then lastly, we're seeing people who seem to be saying, okay, wait, this I'm getting it. This feels crazy. I can wait. So our current hypothesis has been that we're seeing that more and more buyers are starting to wait on the sidelines. That's just our hypothesis. That's what we expect, especially as like more news and more media comes around the shortage. It's sort of like, think about how you feel with lumber right now. If you have a big lumber project, you're thinking, okay, maybe I should wait. Lumber is so expensive. So we've kind of been expecting or thinking that's happening in automotive. So if we look at it, what we expect, our hypothesis is what's happening or about to happen is that more and more people are going to the sidelines. There's still a lot of vehicles to be sold to the other two categories. We're still having incredible months just going for gross on these other two. But this has been our hypothesis of what's happening and what's maybe about to happen. But I challenged our data science team to look into this and say, hey, can you prove that with the Foureyes data, this is happening? Can we take a look? And part of the reason why that's so important to me is that I think that if it is happening, we are in this moment. Like when I look at what automotive needs to be doing to prevent disruption, I think the auto industry is an incredibly important industry in that, especially franchise auto dealers, in that they're in every community in America. They're good paying jobs. And so if you look at that industry being disrupted, for me personally, that's part of the reason why I work in automotive. I think it's a really important industry. And if you look, if we say, hey, there's more and more buyers waiting on the sideline, I actually think it becomes a really good moment for auto dealers to have to move from a transaction business, just closing leads, to what I call like a lifetime value business, which is more how like online retailers operate now, which is how do you treat leads over the whole course of their lifetime with you? And so if we see people who are lead now and opting to wait for 6 months, it's actually really exciting to force us to make some of those changes to say, how do I talk to this person for 6 months and add incremental value all the way to build that relationship? So when they do buy, I'm there for them. So I'm excited to go and try to prove this. So to test the hypothesis, one, we would expect to see the time from lead to sale would most likely increase. Like when we got with our data science team, they said, yeah, we think that if your hypothesis was true, it would most likely increase. So we looked at what was the time. So percent of sales that happen within 3 days of a lead. So this is for sold cars. So you sell a car, how many of those leads are 3 days old or less? And so pre-pandemic, phone calls, 66%. So phone calls, if you get a sales phone call and they buy, they close the fastest. Forms 57.7, that's 54.3%. Again, if our hypothesis is correct, we would expect these numbers to come down. They're actually going up. So now, phone calls, if someone's buying a car, they're actually buying it faster from you. Same with Forms, same with checks, just by a little bit, but they are buying it a little bit faster. So this theory, the first thing when we say, okay, we'd expect to see this, not true. We're not seeing that just yet. The other thing we said, well, if we're not seeing that, maybe that's because there's so much demand. They're hearing about how there's demand. So the buyers are having to make faster decisions because it's a more competitive market. So we would then expect overall close rate to come down so that there's more people. We're looking for more people to be sort of self-selecting themselves out of the market. What we see is this is the close rate from January 2019 to August. So we are to April. We did see in April the close rate first start to come down, but it's also a little bit artificial because we're not even we don't have a 30-day close on this. So this will still ink up. So leads that began in April, we expect that to see. So our hypothesis is not yet able to be proven. Now we're watching this number carefully because I think if close rate truly is coming down and it does select buyers are self-selecting out, then I think that the universal problem we all have is very clear, which is how do we prepare to talk to these leads over the next 6 months, cultivate them to get them buying a car. And there's lots of good strategies we're seeing people work with leads to get them to order vehicles ahead of time. We're seeing lots of activity there, but we're not yet seeing that close rate is truly coming down. And somebody asked the question, what's the overall, what's the data set? We're looking at all the franchise dealers in the US in this data set. So our conclusion so far is we can't yet prove the hypothesis that more people are starting to wait on the sidelines. We'll continue to look at it, and I'm really excited if we can prove that. We're not quite there. But overall, that this market is crazy. We're seeing so many anomalies and weird stuff. I think we're all experiencing that. And so what's happening in a crazy market is everyone gets kind of analysis by paralysis. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. And it becomes hard to make decisions. There are a series of best practices that apply no matter if you're going for gross, if you think that you can still gain some market share. No matter what you're doing, there's some things that are just kind of standard in this market. One, we always want to be improving the prospect experience. How are we making ourselves a better place to do business? How are we offering them a better experience? Two, we always want to get rid of old inventory. Nobody wants to be sitting on a bunch of aged inventory. And the third thing is, and everyone has different opinions about this, is getting more inventory. We're seeing really two camps of dealers right now. We're seeing the dealers who are going out aggressively, trying to get more used inventory. We're seeing the other dealers who are scared of holding on to a bunch of overpriced inventory. So, again, we don't know enough about what's going to be happening in 3 months from now to say which strategy is better. But we are seeing both of those. And so for the sake of this webinar, I'm going to assume that you want to get more inventory, used inventory, and we're going to show you some tricks on how to use Foureyes to do all three of these things. To understand the modules of Foureyes. So if you're a Foureyes user, you probably understand this. Three main modules of Foureyes. A safety net, which what safety net does is it makes sure your actual sales leads gets into your CRM. Prospect engagement, which then can email to your users based on everything they're looking at and they're doing on the website. And so I'll show you some ways to use prospect engagement. A lot of you guys on here, I recognize some of the names, really good prospect engagement users. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks there. And if you're not yet a prospect engagement user, if you're someone on this call who's not used Foureyes yet, I know there's a 60-day free trial. There's no strings attached. There's no auto enroll. So you should absolutely do it. There's no reason not to, especially right now. And then there's sales enablement. In sales enablement, your sales team. And if you're a sales enablement user, we're going to show you some things today that are really exciting that you might not have known on how to use Foureyes, especially to do these three things really, really well. And also we do this, we don't advertise this very much, but for prospect engagement users, we do actually offer a 30-day free sales enablement if you've never tried sales enablement trial now. So if you're using prospect engagement and you like it and you're a paid user, you can also get that 30-day free trial on sales enablement. So you should be asking your account rep about that. So let's start with, I'm going to start with some house cleaning. So house cleaning, just like what are the basic things you need to be having set up in Foureyes in order to take advantage of these market conditions. So first of all, someone calls you, right? And they're inquiring about a vehicle. If they interacted with your advertising, that sales call, that phone call actually cost you about $160 for that sales call. Now, this is a number that a lot of people don't like to share because it's more expensive than we often talk about, but actual sales calls, to get a sales call to call your dealership, cost the average dealership about $160. In the month of April, last month, 25.5% of sales calls did not make it into your CRM. And so if you're using Safety Net, it's going to automatically protect against that. But you want to watch to make sure this is a red flag that there's something going on with your sales process. Because that number has gone up about 14.8% since February. So that number was at about 22%, and it's spiking up. And we're seeing that it seems to be a little bit of a red flag that dealer staff is starting to get lazy. They're starting to not put leads into the CRM. You've earned those leads, and those leads may not buy today, but they are potential buyers in 6 months from now. And you absolutely want the institutional memory of that lead. You want that name, you've earned that name. There's no reason not to have it in your system. So basic house cleaning, we absolutely want that. Now, if you're using prospect engagement, I just want to walk you through some quick settings. Make sure that you have your settings turned on correctly for this market. So if you go into prospect engagements and you click on the email settings link, right here, this email settings link, make sure your do not send, check your do not send to statuses to make sure there's still people you don't want to exclude. So in prospect engagement, you can have certain CRM statuses that automatically we won't send emails to if they're in those statuses. But a lot of times when people first start, they sometimes will turn off a lot more statuses than they actually need to. Look at these statuses right here. Make sure that you can be more lenient right now, because what we see is with this inventory challenge, the sales teams just aren't doing the follow-up because they don't have the inventory. So let prospect engagement help you with that follow-up. So make sure that these statuses are nice and clean. Days of the week, there's no reason right now not to potentially be sending emails to prospects any day of the week. There's no reason to turn off certain days. Start sending after the lead, make sure that's set to 1. We have some people who've set processes where they're not sending emails for like 7 days. Now in this market, it's actually more helpful. We're seeing you'll get better performance by having this set to 1. Lastly, in the customized design, I'm going to show you later how to add a banner and add a custom banner to do some things. If you don't know how to do that, it's super easy. We're happy to help you with that, but I'll show you that more when we talk about how to generate more trade-ins. So capturing the switch vehicle, this is also just some house cleaning on how to use Foureyes. There's a trick you can do with both prospect engagement and sales enablement. It's much easier in sales enablement, and it's kind of automated in sales enablement for you. But you can also do it in prospect engagement. It takes a little more work, but you can actually see when people who contact you about one thing are moving to a different vehicle, and I'm going to show you how. So first, let's talk about how to do this in prospect engagement. So in prospect engagement, if you come into your interface, one thing you probably know is you can sort by any of this. So like a trick that I use is, and I always show people, is sort on last click, because those are the people who are actively on my website right now. And then if you click on their name, what will happen is it'll take you to their profile, and you're going to see everything they've done on your website, their CRM activity. But if you click on this interest tab right here, what you see is all of the vehicles that they've looked at, and you also see whether or not they're still in stock. So you'll see the vehicles that they've looked at, what's unavailable and what's not. So I can see, for example, with this person, that this 2021 Ram 1500 Bighorn Loan Shark that is in stock. He's actually viewed it 8 times. He last viewed it 14 minutes ago. 2017 Ram Sport, he viewed 3 times a month ago when he was looking at used. It's no longer available. I can see all of that. You can sort by price, you can sort by total views, you can sort by last viewed, and notice it shows, there's a page turner to see all of the vehicles he's looked at. You can also see what the price range they're browsing below here. There's everything he searched for on the website. So again, we're seeing people switch vehicles pretty dramatically. I mean, the amount of people who are saying they're selling Compasses to people that came in on Ram 1500s right now is relatively shocking, that we're even hearing those stories a lot. So, and that's that type of buyer who's just like, I just need something new right now. Get it. I'm not gonna get what I want here. So you can see that in prospect engagement by just clicking into the profile. Now, in sales enablement, this process is even easier because you're just going to get emailed every day the leads, and you can click straight through to see that. But as you engage with these leads, really look at their interest tab. If you don't already use that, this is an important thing to use to understand and to see if they're moving off of what they originally inquired about. So leveraging sales enablement. So again, like I think that one of the ways we will be really successful as an industry is if we can move from a transactional business to a lifetime value business. And I think like things like digital retailing are great, but they don't really solve the core problem if we're still a transactional business. And what I mean by transactional business is we only really care about selling a car. Like if you think about an online retailer, like a really good online retailer, when they get your name, what they're doing is they're figuring out where in the process you are, and they're bucketing you. That they might be bucketing you and saying, this guy's not going to buy for a year, but here's all of the content we can drip to them over the next year to add value, to stay engaged, and to capture that moment when they do buy. We need to start treating our leads the same way, where we've traditionally had more of like a Glengarry sales model, where it's like, are they going to buy? Yes or no? Bucket them, lost lead, work the leads that are close to buying. The problem is that model alienates a lot of users. That model sends a lot of users to Carvana. That model sends a lot of users to be interested in the Tesla business model, because they say, I called, I didn't get called back, I didn't get service. They didn't engage with me, because we're just looking for the leads that are trying to buy a car. And I think that, as we're sort of in this customer experience revolution, we have to lean into it and say, how are we moving to really look at every lead as a potential lifetime value customer? And there's a lot of things that we're doing coming up in the near future that we're getting ready to release that really tie in really nicely to this that I'm really excited about. But there are things you can do with sales enablement right now to help your dealership start to make that turn. And using sales enablement in this market right now to test, to learn, to test more, to iterate, I'm going to show you just a simple trick. If you're in sales enablement, you can come into sales enablement. This is my favorite category, but I love the not lost section of sales enablement, because the not lost is the leads that you are treating or marked as lost, but they're still actively shopping your website. And so they're not lost at all. But your sales team, without this tool, your sales team has already given up on them. So these are a great group of people to test strategies with. And in this market, when we're talking about, hey, we don't necessarily even have inventory to sell them, it's a great opportunity to take this list of names and test what happens. Can we cultivate long-term relationships with them? Can we get their loyalty by treating them in an exceptional way right now. And I think it's only a series of small things you have to do to do that. I had experience recently. I just bought a boat, and I went to a place. I got a quote on a boat. I'd gotten kind of caught on this model, and then I kind of felt like it was expensive, and I started calling other dealerships. And I called this other dealership, and the guy said, "I don't have it. We can't get that for you till August. I know you're not interested, but if you want, you can send me the quote you have, and I'll tell you whether or not you're getting a good deal." And I thought that was like so nice that he was willing to do that. It's a sales pitch, but he did that. Then I sent him my quote, and then he started talking to me more. And he's like, "Well, you really want the model up." And I was like, "Yeah, but I can't get that till August." He's like, "Well, I have that." So he totally moved me by offering to help me with the buying process, which again, this is just a random tactic. But these tactics you can do click on the not lost. It's a great opportunity to do it. And you can export this list and make yourself a call list and make a tiger team and say, "Hey, here's a tactic. If there's a tactic you've always wanted to try it on export a list, try it there, make sure your results are logged in the CRM." But you can get really experimental right now. Not Lost is a great place to do it. We're using Foureyes to help you sell aged inventory. So there are some tricks here that you may not know that are really helpful on using Foureyes. So if you're using sales enablement, you can come into sales enablement. You can click on this list by inventory tab. So if you don't know this is a great secret little feature here. When you're in this list by inventory, you can either choose inventory type, where you put in the make, model, and whether it's new or used, the year. I'll show you everybody that's looked at that. You can also select specific type and search by stock or VIN number. So you can put a stock or VIN number, and it's going to show you everybody that has looked at that particular piece of inventory. So this is your list of people to potentially call or follow up with that inventory. So again, you can export this list and work that aged inventory. Other thing to notice here, and I'll talk about this more in a tip coming up, is that this person has a trade-in. Now, one of the unique things about Foureyes that's important, and I'll say this again in just a few minutes, is that people don't always tell us they have a trade-in. We don't always get that information. But one of the things that Foureyes sees is that they went to the trade-in page. And we know that if somebody goes to the trade-in page on your website, there's like a 95% chance they actually have a trade-in. So this person may not have told us he had a trade-in. We saw at some point he visited the trade-in page on your website. So we captured that he probably has a trade-in. And so if you're looking to get new used vehicles, you could start here with this person who just viewed it 2 days ago, this old inventory we searched for. If you're using prospect engagement, and you want to use Foureyes to help sell aged inventory. So one thing is, make sure that all your settings, again, are on suggested vehicles, price drop, and new lot. But right now with the price drop, by default, we usually set it to $249, meaning that if you have a price drop, if you drop the price $250, it's going to email everybody who's potentially interested in that vehicle. Right now in this market, you could probably make that $99 if you wanted to, and it will still email. So look at what your settings are set to. And if you take a piece of old inventory and you drop the price on it more than this $1 more than this setting, prospect engagement will automatically engage with all the people who are potentially interested in that vehicle. So with prospect engagement, take your old inventory, take a look at it, and see what your settings are set. You can drop the price by $1 more than whatever that amount is. Another just kind of pro tip is we've had so many dealers tell us this that we now, we hear this all the time, that Wednesdays is the best time to do price drops. So what dealers say over and over again is that when you drop the price on a vehicle on Wednesday, Foureyes will pick that up on Thursday and send it out. And that will usually get the showroom traffic and the phone calls and people in on Wednesday or on the weekends. So we hear it over and over again. People say, we do our price drops on Wednesdays. If you're using prospect engagement and you're about to drop prices, Wednesdays are typically the best days to drop prices. Now let's talk about using Foureyes to help you generate trade-ins. So trade-ins with sales enablement, there's some really cool little tricks you can do to look at this. So again, we go into our prospect list. Now, one thing I'll show you on the prospect list, if you look up at the top here, we see qualified leads. So see how we see the qualified leads and the all leads. So qualified leads, if you're using Foureyes, you know, are the people who are trying to buy a car from you. So those are sales leads. Those are people who are actually engaging. All leads is everybody. So that could be a service, Pearson, that could be parts, that could be all leads. You could go into either category. So you could actually go into all leads and come into all leads and you click add filters. Go down to add filters. And what you do here is you go down to interests and you select trade-in. So what that's going to show you is everybody who is a known lead, and if we're going to all leads, this is even for service leads, parts, who has visited the trade-in section of your website. And so you click on that trade-in section and you hit save filter selections, and then it's going to give you a list. So like in this particular dealership, you can see 114 out of their 661 prospects have actually visited the trade-in page. You can now export that as a call list. Now, another tip, if you're going to do it with all leads, is go into the columns section here and select qualification to be exported as part of this. So make sure you check this qualification. And the reason you do that, if you're looking at all leads, is then it will say when you export the list whether or not this is a sales lead. So when you're calling a sales lead, you can talk to them about buying a car and trading in a vehicle. When you're calling a service lead, you don't want to lead hard with buying a car. You can just talk to them about their trade-in or being interested in a trade-in right now. But again, like dealers, every dealer using Foureyes has a lot of users that have visited the trade-in section of your website. You don't necessarily know they have a trade-in, but they've told us they do. So use this section to generate a report, and you can go out and proactively contact all of those trade-in customers. And so, when you export the report, if you have qualification, I would see, for example, Rick R is not actually a sales prospect, but I can still see everything he's doing on the website. But you want to know that before you call him. Again, using Foureyes to help you generate trade-ins, prospect engagement. If you're using prospect engagement, you can come into your settings and you can put a banner in. And again, we're happy to help you do this as well. So you can just call us if you want our help, but it's super simple. You can put a banner in, you can send it to a URL on your website that talks about your trade-in policy. And so, here are two examples of banners that people put into their emails. We want your car, we'll pay 20% above the book. We want your car. So you can put these banners in really quickly. That will go out to every prospect, and you can capture that click when they click over off of the banner with Foureyes. So again, super simple trick. It's should take you all about 5 minutes to set this up, and it's really helpful for helping generate trade-in traffic if you're using prospect engagement. So lastly, the few things. If you can go to foureyes.io, and we have a few things. If you're not a Foureyes user, start my trial. Click start my trial. Get a trial today. We help a lot in this time. There's no reason not to. Again, there's no strings attached. So we don't auto enroll you. We have to call you and go over your results and get you to sign a contract after the 60 days to actually continue as a user. And then we're month to month. But again, so no reason not to get your 60 days. You love Foureyes. If you're a Foureyes user and you love Foureyes, you can become a Foureyes ambassador. It's only reason it's about a 2-minute process. And really what it does is says we can pay your dealership $1,000 if you refer anybody who becomes a customer. And that includes other dealers in your group. That could be a 20 group. That could be whatever. We have some people that are lined up to get potentially like $20,000 for their dealership by just being a Foureyes ambassador. And if you refer us business, we'll tell you like, hey, sign this form so we can send you $1,000. But we started this program as sort of an experiment ourselves to say, instead of marketing, spending this money on advertising, could we give this money back to our clients? So we just launched it. We kind of made it a stupid high amount of money, but we're testing it out. There's no reason not to. We have some dealers right now that are making money just referring other dealers in their group, frankly. So it's pretty great. Then if you go to the Learn tab and you click on this data section, we put out a lot of data on sales that are happening across automotive that we're seeing with our system, also auto inventory levels. That can show you the decline in inventory. You can look at different make, model, brands. There's a lot in there. So if you haven't played around on that, go play around on that. It's free. We've put that all out there. There's no pay gate. There's no gate or anything. And we just put that out there. So play around, go out there. With that, I will open the floor for questions. If there are any questions, I've tried to nail this at 30 minutes. I went 1 minute long. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. And just feel free to chat them into the chat screen. Do have somebody asking me if they've already free trialed it and they have another free trial. I'm gonna be a hard ass and say no if you've already used your free trial. But what you could do is you could refer a few dealers and get the $1,000 and use that to fund Foureyes for you. So thank you, Kaylin, for the note. Good information. Thanks. You can I put in here my personal email and my cell phone. Any of you can feel free to call me directly. If you're working with Foureyes, you know who you're working with. You can call them on any of these things. Rachel's asking, are there certain CRMs that Foureyes is less compatible with or more compatible? So our integration engine works with every web-based CRM. So the only one that we used to be that we couldn't work with, that we don't see anymore, was like Dominion used to have a product called Autobase that was like server side, and we don't even see that anymore. So we work with every single CRM. Are there some that are better than others? Absolutely. We're able to do our product. I mean, we push hard on the CRMs to make sure that we can maintain our product. So our product works with all of them. Are there some that are better than others? Absolutely. I'll get in a lot of trouble if I told you my opinion here on this call. I do have opinions. Please share. Rachel, I'm not going to fall for that because I actually can see we have a few CRM people on this call. So you can call me. That's my cell phone. I'll share my CRM opinions with you. But I don't want to. I'll get in trouble if I share. But there are some good ones, and you know, we do see we work with Vin, we work with Dealer Socket, we work with Elite, we work with Ray. We all of them, and they all have their pros and cons. And it's really how you use it. I'll give the diplomatic answer. It's how you use it that matters. But I would like to see the CRMs make a concerted effort to be more open, have a more open platform like Salesforce, and how they often advertise they have an open platform. I think that's important. So I do judge them if they're not that open and they say they are. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to sit around. But if not, get back to your Wednesday. I really appreciate your time. I hope this wasn't too awkward with me jumping around inside the PowerPoint. And thank you guys so much for your time.